Yes, it's Bowling with the Champs. And this morning you'll see two outstanding bowlers from the state of Wisconsin. We're greeting you from the red carpet Regency Lanes in Milwaukee, where the bowling center of the future is here today. Bowling with the Champs is brought to you in part by Miller Beer. Purity you can see, quality you can taste. Miller, made the American way since 1855. And by Foster Pontiac, South 27th and Loomis. Per zone records so far this year, Milwaukee's #1 Pontiac dealer. Good morning, I'm Hank Stoddard. Once again, we're at Red Carpet Regency Lanes as we continue our first round of action, men's division on Bowling with the Champs. As you're undoubtedly aware by now, the winner is determined on the basis of the high three-game score. And today we have a bowler who's making his 4th consecutive appearance, 4 times in as many years on Bowling with the Champs. A former champion on our show, Jeff Richgels of Madison, going up against a first-time appearance by Gene Schuette, who is from Genoa City. The winner of today's match, of course, advances to the second round, which means more money from the tournament prize fund. In addition, Red Carpet Lanes gives money for the performances today, $50 each time a bowler wins a game, $50 to the winner of the 3-game series, a $25 consolation prize should one of the bowlers fail to win a game, an extra $100 for a 700 series, extra $200 for an 800 series. And should one of the bowlers roll a perfect game, he will have, for the use of 1 year, from Foster Pontiac, this 1987 two-door Pontiac Sunbird SE. Now, the bowler will select the color. The standard equipment includes power brakes, rack and pinion steering, steel-belted radials, AM radio, and a 5-speed transmission. That's for rolling a perfect game. There are other prizes as well. High 3-game series. You're going to have to shoot pretty good to knock that off. Niall Konachek currently with a 782. Also the high single game. Jace Peterson leads there with 265. And the longest string of strikes in one game. I think we got a 6-way tie there with 6 in a row. Time now to bring in Dennis Wright, who of course provides his usual expert analysis each and every Sunday morning. And Dennis, we since this is the 4th consecutive year that Jeff's qualified for our show, we know quite a bit about him. Let's start a little bit about Gene Schuette.
Don't know much about Gene Schuette other than he's a second bowler from that area around Pell Lake and Lake Geneva. And Bob Miller was here earlier, bowled pretty well. And Bob said the first time on the show, a little bit more of a problem rather than Jeff, as you said, 4 different times already.
Yeah, I would think that maybe not in age, but in experience in bowling on our show at least, and in high-powered tournaments, Jeff would have an edge in that area.
Well, Hank, he's only 24 years old, and I can't remember anybody winning as many important titles and tournaments and non-pros at age 24 since I've been around, and you know that's been a long time.
That's true. Longer than either one of us want to admit. We're going to take a commercial break and come back with game #1 right after this. His wrist. Now he's wearing a wrist device, which he normally doesn't wear, he tells me. And he says it feels pretty good, but I would think for a bowler, a wrist is a very important part of your body in bowling, right?
Really, and it does help solidify it, but when I wear one, I feel very uncomfortable, and that's what he told me. He doesn't really feel comfortable with it. Ironically, last year in Jeff's first match, he had hand trouble, and he had just come off of surgery. So it's just kind of a reversal of roles this year.
Well, we'll see how Gene holds up with that not 100% wrist. But first we're going to show you a 100% pretty lady who's sitting at the foul line. She was here last week, did so well, we brought her back. She did not make a mistake last week. That's Cheryl Evers, Old Dutch potato chip distributor for this area. And here's an old Dutchman. No, he's not. He's well, he might be old, but I don't think he's a Dutchman, right?
I think he's an old Croatian.
An old Croatian, yeah. Okay. Old Croatian potato chips. George Vales, who of course is our official scorekeeper. Lanes 27 and 28 at Red Carpet Regency. And let me see, who qualified highest, Dennis? You got it.
Yeah, Jeff qualified highest, and you remember last week, Rich Wonders was a high qualifier, and he wanted to finish on 28. Well, Jeff apparently doesn't want to make that mistake. He's letting his opponent start on lane 27 and starting out very nicely.
This is the first show of the 1986-87 season on Bowling with the Champs. I'd become a much more polished bowler at this time, and this show here was taped in early December 1986. I'd had a great year in PBA regionals that year. Hadn't managed to win one, but I had been in the top 5 many times. And this was in the era when the Midwest PBA was filled with many tour champions. And you were battling with guys like, Pete Weber and Steve Wunderlich and Mark Fahey and Mark McDowell, and just on and on and on and on every week battling with those guys in regionals. It was a great training ground. We'd have 100 to 150 or more entries every one of those regionals for the most part. And I'd really begun to become a much more polished bowler. And I think you can see that my approach is a lot more consistent. I'm not up and down so much going to the line. My release is a little more consistent. Spare game still needed some work, but it was better than it had been. And at this point, I was just about to go out on the winter tour in January of '87, and I was very confident. You can see in how I bowl in this match, and I'm not going to ruin it for you, but there's a lot of excitement in this match for prizes, the bonus prizes, and the scores I shoot here, and the strikes. It's a fun show to watch. It was definitely one of the neat days of my bowling career, and at this point, boy, I was sure confident heading out to that tour. It's just unfortunate that things didn't go as I planned, and almost as soon as I got out there and started bowling, I started feeling my wrist sort of starting to lose a little bit, and over the course of 1987 and '88, it would deteriorate to the point where I had to have reconstructive surgery, and in early 1989 that put things back together. But boy, at this point, I was kind of filled with the idea that I was going to go out there and give a run at Rookie of the Year. And that turned out to be Ryan Shafer, actually, one of the bowling's all-time champions. And he had a heck of a good first year. And I didn't do what I thought I was going to do. But boy, on this day, I had it on, and I hope you enjoy it.
Single pin spare conversions might be a little more difficult with that bad wrist than actually throwing your strike ball.
Yeah, it can make a difference. There's no doubt about it. And a 20-pin turnaround in frame 3. Jeff trailed by 20. He's now evened it up, actually taking the lead by a couple pins.
You can tell it's a brand new wrist device because it's all nice and shiny, and all the white stuff on it is all still pure white. And that one he almost crossed over. In fact, I guess he did cross over, but he leaves the 6-pin. And Jeff here looking for 3 in a row. Jeff wastes no time. Boy, he's up there firing that ball. There they go.
And with that big hook, you'd think that he'd leave a lot of 4-pins, but because he's smooth coming out of the ball, he trusts the ball, he gets that 2-pin to knock that 4 out a lot more often than you might think. He carries a lot of high hits.
Yeah, good point. I've wondered that too. There's times when I see him throw it and I think, well, that's a little high. And he does not leave the 4-pin like a lot of people, including myself, do.
Well, watch the 2-pin. That's the first pin left of the head pin. And it stayed low and just got that 4-7 out of there.
Certainly has an effective bowling ball. As you said, at the age of 24 is got a list of tournaments, championships a mile long.
It's at least a page long. He had to put an extra page in.
That's a second page, huh?
Right.
Yeah, it starts on that page and goes. Oh,
there was a good hit with interference, wasn't it?
Yeah, something interfered right in front of the 7-pin. So Gene Schuette is going to have to shoot for the 7-pin. Jeff is going for a strike and gets it. 4 in a row.
His strikes look good. Not that there aren't too many strikes that look bad, but he just looks good doing it.
We'll watch this spare conversion get over. It did. And watch and see what happened, Dennis. That jam up in front of the 7.
Well, I wonder if the 2 comes off the sideboard and interferes with the 5. Something kept the 5 out. I don't know if that was a 2-pin or the head pin.
I think it was, yeah. In any case, the 7 was still there. He did spare it. But after jumping in front with a double in the first 2 frames, he now trails because after opening in the first frame, Jeff Richgels is rolling strikes. 4 of them to be precise. And a split. Now, there's something you wouldn't think you'd see that often from Jeff either, the 5-7.
Well, that's not from Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong lane. I'm okay. I'm all right, folks. I looked up at the screen. I think it was Jeff bowling. You're right.
And
we saw Jeff.
And you're exactly right. His type of ball you would not think would leave the 5-7. On the other hand, Gene doesn't break the ball. It doesn't finish quite as hard. And he could have. And well, of course, he did leave the 5-7. How about it?
Close. Yeah, I looked at the wrong lane there.
So from a 20-pin deficit, all of a sudden, we've got about a 40-pin advantage for Jeff Richgels from Madison.
Things can change in a hurry in this game. Strikes and opens are what caused the change. Gene Schuette from near Pell Lake, as you said, and Genoa City, and I think we got quite a few people from that area here up.
Oh, nice crowd
today.
How about this one?
Now you hear them.
Yeah, Gene's wife Nancy and daughter Carrie is here, and Bob Miller came down, the fellow who was on earlier in the first round.
Looking for 6 in a row, has them, and Jeff Richgels.
Way in the back, Hank. Got a young lady just clearing up her
Jeff's
eyes.
parents.
Yeah, Jeff's mother and dad back there. She was doing a little bookwork while Jeff was practicing.
Maybe she's keeping score down there.
That's right.
Doesn't trust George.
Who does?
Here's Gene Schuette looking for a double. And that's what you were talking
There's
about.
There's the 4-pin.
Yeah, he's a little bit high. The 4-pin stays.
And you would think it'd almost be the opposite because he doesn't break the ball quite as sharp. But if you just pull it a little bit, you have the chance of leaving that 4-pin on what looks to be a good hit. And that looked to be a good hit.
I'll tell you, we now have 7 bowlers tied with the longest eligible string of strikes at 6 in a row, including Bob Miller, who's sitting over on the bench there. Well, what kind of a shot would he have at? No, he wouldn't have a shot at Jace Peterson's 265, would he? Not Jeff Richgels, no.
When you open in the first frame, Hank, you almost have to go all the way to pick up 260. He's working on 230 right now, and he could go to 250, but could not get to 260. At any rate, a 55-pin lead, Jeff Richgels.
Who trailed by 20 in the first frame?
Second frame.
Well, 20 in the second.
Well, actually in the first after the second was bowled, I guess.
Right.
And a kind of that half hit that we've...
Well, it says 29 for Gene, 20 for Jeff, and 9 for Jeff in the first frame. So.
True.
That's 20.
I know it. I can't argue with you.
There's Jeff back with a strike for 198 in the 8th, the strike up in the 9th. He's heading into the 10th. And these fellas are wasting no time. Game number one.
They really are moving along.
Game number one flew by, and that one just flew by the corner pin, and that's 2 single pin misses. Overcorrection, would you say, after throwing the first one in the channel?
Yeah, that would be a possibility, but he's digging quite a hole in game one after a pretty nice start.
Well, as we said, Glenn Skenedor, our producer-director, was telling me he had call from Gene earlier in the week, and he was concerned whether or not he'd be able to make it. And we came close to having Jess Parizo, our number 1 alternate, make the show.
Another Madisonian.
Yeah.
The funny part is Jeff almost came down to, or Jess, I guess it is, to watch Jeff Richgels bowl today.
Might have ended up bowling against him if Gene hadn't decided he was able to go on, but it's too bad, his first time in the show, that he's not able to bowl at 100% capability.
Well, Jeff opened in the first frame. Since then, he's buried almost every shot. 2 whistling 10 pins.
Good spare there on the 7-pin conversion by Gene, and Jeff with his spare. So they each have a ball left in the 10th frame of game number 1. And if we assume that they're going to get strikes, it would give Gene 171 and Jeff 238. Big 6-bagger, the difference. Well, there's the 171. Now we'll see if Jeff can get the 238. Yep. So Jeff Richgels with a 238 game to 171 has piled up a pretty healthy margin. Is that 67 pins? Boy, didn't start out that way in game number 1, but it finished that way. And so Jeff Richgels with the lead after 1 game. Stay with us. Game 2 coming up after some messages. Genoa City. Wonder who settled Genoa City. Sounds like an Italian name, right?
Yeah, and pretty name.
Here's our leader, Jeff Richgels, who opened in the first. Well, here it comes.
Oh,
Look at
he
that.
got it from the other side.
He opened in the first frame last game, then strung a 6-bagger together, shot a 238. And here it looked like he had left a 10-pin. Wrong. Pin came from across the other side, knocked it out of there. So Gene Schuette with a big deficit to overcome. But a good start.
And it looks like he's changed bowling balls. That one seems to finish a little bit harder. See if that'll help him out. He only had 4 strikes game 1, and 2 of them came in the first 2 frames. On the other hand, Jeff Richgels with 8 strikes, and he's always been a big producer of X's.
There's that wrist device that's being
That's a
worn by
striker,
Schuette.
Hank, made in Milwaukee, and doing very well with it. How about it? No, sir.
Well, he didn't get the pin coming across.
That ball seemed to be in the pocket a few inches away, but it never finished. Seemed to fall off just a little bit. Didn't have that drive that Jeff's ball has on it.
And we got to watch this 10-pin.
Yes, 2 of them he's missed already, 1 on both sides. 1 in the channel. This one pretty good.
Yeah, got the spare there. And so he starts with a strike and a spare, but if this young man gets a strike, he falls further behind because he had a strike in the first frame. Richgels looking for 1 in the second. There they go.
Oh, that light hit is good for him. We said he's been carrying the 4-pin high, so that adds up to a pretty big 1-3 pocket for Jeff Richgels.
Really, he gets a lot of strikes.
He does. That might explain why he's won so many things at a young age of 24, including an ABC team championship last year.
Went off to the FIQ, didn't he?
Yes, 2 gold medals, Hank, and turkey for Jeff Richgels.
Starting from the first frame.
And their team shot 32.53 last year to win the ABC, and he contributed 706 pins. That's not too bad. Brett Faulkner, his corner man, was on that team. John Peterson was down there.
Oh, now that
Another
wasn't
10
light.
pin.
Yeah, that was one of the ringing variety, Dennis. I know his body
That was a
blocked
good
you
hit.
out, but
Right.
before we started today's match, we asked each of the bowlers the strengths of their game. How they come they were able to get to the proficiency to bowl on Bowling with the Champs. And as you watch Gene here go for this 10-pin spare, you'll hear what he had to say.
Also being able to cope.
We have a foul. We have a foul. He must have stuck there. I got to be honest. I was trying to listen to what he was saying.
I noticed he stuck, but I didn't know
So
that he
it
went
is
over
a foul.
line.
Cheryl
So-
called it. George just turned around and told us, so we do have a foul.
Well, it goes to 48 rather than a 39 with a spare up.
Not only did I miss the foul, I never did hear what he had to say.
I didn't hear what he had to say either.
There he is getting another 10.
That's 3 in a row. That's not fair.
Boy, and he's looking like Rich Wonders here from last week who got a lot of 10 pins. Well, we're going to try again. We weren't the only ones that didn't hear him. Let's hear what Gene had to say. It's just like last frame, only he's on the left lane going for a 10 pin. Here's what he said.
Strongest part of my game is being able to adjust to different lane conditions and also being able to cover spares.
Well, he made it accurate
1 out
that
of
time.
2 ain't bad.
Yeah.
He's had some trouble with spares, but we'll give him an excuse this week with a bad wrist. And I don't know why he stuck, but he did. And at any rate, his opponent is pounding that pocket and carrying.
And we'll watch Jeff as he goes for 5 in a row from the first frame and talk about the strength of his game. And if he doesn't say it's rolling strikes, he's lying.
Yeah, it's not spares.
Without a doubt, the strongest part of my game is my strike ball. I'm not that great a spare shooter, although I have improved in recent years, but when I get on my shot and I can throw a lot of strikes, I think I can do pretty well against just about anybody.
He's
True.
got that right, hasn't
Yeah,
he?
True.
He's got 5 in a row from the first frame.
And let's tack one on, Hank, from the
Oh,
12th
for
frame.
the trip. Yeah, he got
So
his
we
last
give him 6, huh?
6 in a row over 2 games. That Hughes Travel, Foster Pontiac. Interest has to perk up here. And Jeff and Gene Schuette bounces back with a strike.
You know, Gene is trailing by a ton this game, and he actually could have been tied. 3 10-pins surrounded by a strike on each end. What a difference if you carry them. And then, of course, the foul didn't help at all.
Really? So here you see the score on the bottom of the screen. And on the third frame, it says E9. That means there was an error. Indeed, there was a foul.
And that ball fell off just a little bit, just as it was reaching the 1-3 pocket, fell off a little bit to the right. Deflection, another way of saying it, but usually it deflects off more off the 5-pin. That seemed to bounce off the head pin a little bit.
You mentioned some of the events that young Mr. Richgels has won. Of course, on our show, in 83-84, he won his first 2 matches. Then in the third round, he lost to Dennis Schechter, who went on to win the championship. In 84-85, he went all the way, beating Gary Schmidt, Dennis Mayer, Kurt Preston, Ben Hafes, and Jeff Henry for the championship. And you watch him here going for 6 in a row. He has them.
Oh, he had them late, but all down. That's 7 for the trip, 6 for this game.
And
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Tom Shem, he lost to in the first round last year, and he went all the way.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't win it,
his opponent has a chance of going all the way.
It would seem that way. Whoever beats him, yeah.
It's going to take quite a bit for Gene Schuette to pick up this match. Whoa! Hold everything.
Jeff Richgels, 7 in a row from the first frame in game number 2 here. Chance, of course, for not only the cruise. No, it's not a cruise this year. It's a trip to Las Vegas, isn't it? From Hughes Travel.
Wasn't it last year to Las Vegas?
No, we went to New York, won that Caribbean cruise, and there's Gene Schuette with a strike. But Jeff Richgels has 7 in a row this game, 8 overall. He needs to roll 11 consecutively to win the Hughes Award. Oh, Puerto Vallarta, that's right. I left my notes at home this morning. I was scurrying around to
Mr.
get my
Knackers
mom
last
together.
year, I think, went to Las Vegas.
That's right. Puerto Vallarta, that's where Bill and Connie Hughes are sending the bowler this year. And a good strike by Gene Schuette and a double.
Well, here comes the couple big shots coming up here.
Indeed, we have 7 in a row from the first frame for Jeff Richgels. If nothing else, he's broken the logjam for a long string of strikes, but he looks like he's heading for perhaps maybe better things. Not only does his string end, he gets the pocket 7-10.
We saw that last week with
Rich Wonders. Well, the 7-bagger gives him the longest string of strikes, but he would still have a shot at the 265, except that he just didn't leave one pin. He left the big split.
That's right.
And gets one of them. So it's quite a run by Jeff Richgels. And he has 206 through
8 frames,
8
so
frames.
he could go to 266.
Little disappointed. You can understand why.
A double tap, 1 on each end, and tough way to end it.
Trying to come back. And does. Where was that one last frame? Huh?
He said the strongest part of his game is strikes. He's proving it, huh? 8 out of 9. A couple non-pro titles to add to his record. 3 second-place finishes.
Wow. Oh, Gene, fine. I was going to say he hasn't been too lucky either, but that time it looked like he had the 8-10 up there, and the 8 was wiggling.
Right.
It finally fell. We'll watch it again.
Watch a deflection in the pocket. Now that ball ends up in a 9-pin slot. Oh, going to get over? Yeah, we know it's going to get over, but it's taking a long time.
Finally.
By the time it went down, he got to 10.
Yeah, he got the spare. Well, we can bring up to date in Gene Schuette's score. 157 through 8 frames, spare up in the 9th. As we've told you, Jeff Richgels, 206 through 8, strike up in the 9th. That's Gene's score you're looking at on the bottom. And Jeff with a 7-bagger is going to break up that 6-way log jam or 7-way log jam with 6 consecutive strikes. So I keep what I said. He isn't very lucky.
He's not very lucky. He's not getting a real good finish on the bowling ball. So we'll put Jeff Richgels at 7.
Next week, we complete our first round of men's division on Bowling with the Champs. 16 bowlers will then remain, of course, to go into the second round. And next week, it's Terry Coolibert. Speaking of international competition, he's been involved in that on more than one occasion. He'll go against Greg Weber.
We mentioned John Peterson is down here. He was on that ABC championship team. Jeff Henry and John Witkowski.
And Jeff Henry's the man that Jeff beat for the title here a couple of years ago. Good ball that time from Gene Schuette.
Bowled a pretty good game for 196.
Yeah.
Really one ball out of the pocket, that's all.
And that foul.
And the foul on
Hurt,
the 10-pin. Now he had more zip on that ball than he did on the one where he left the 7-10. And you know, easy for us to be critical, but when you got 8 in a row or 7 in a row, the butterflies start to come, and it seemed to me was just a little bit slower. Still got an awful bad break. He was in the 1-3 pocket light, which should normally produce strikes for Jeff Richgels, and normally does.
Well, you could accept the 7 maybe or the 10, but both of them.
Well, that's, you know, he may put us back in the log jam right here because he can get the high single.
Oh, he can still get the high single?
266.
Oh, I thought that he'd blown it there. No, if they're all strikes, and yeah, 266. Okay. We'll see.
He'll probably tie for high single. Nope.
All right, 266 for Jeff Richgels.
11 strikes, Hank. 11
strikes for 266. Quite a game. And a new high single. Jace Peterson's 265 knocked off by 1 pin. 4 carrying over from game 2 into game 3, so 7 in a row to start this game, he'd win the trip.
That's right.
And you were telling me, Dennis, that maybe he could use it for a honeymoon sometime, huh?
Yeah. Whoops. There's a nice start for Gene.
Yeah, the majority of our audience are Gene Schuette fans. A lot of people in Genoa City, and they haven't had a great amount to cheer about because Richgels has been so superb. Richgels needs less than 200, right, for bonus money?
196. Here it comes.
There they go.
Okay, number 5. There's his girlfriend, Melanie. Very pretty name for a pretty lady. Not Joe.
No. Melanie. No, she doesn't have a beard. Joe Jasper, of course, the manager here.
Right there is where he gets his power. You see how he turns that ball? Boom!
Well, now it's only 5 more in a row. He's serious about that trip.
He's up to 21 strikes with 8 frames to go.
You know, last week on the show, Daryl Meisel was saying when we were talking to him after he had won over Rich Wonders, he likes the short oiling situation. I have to think it hasn't hurt Jeff Richgels' game either, any.
No, sir. Hey, here we go. Double for Gene.
Well, we got 2 bowlers out of the chute with doubles in the first 2 frames. Gene Schuette and Jeff Richgels.
Talking about a lot of strikes. This is quite a few weeks after the fact, but we'd be remiss if we didn't congratulate 13-year-old Buck Miller. What a show he put on at Red Carpet South.
We've talked about him before. He's only 13 years old, and what did he shoot, Dennis?
825 or 835. It was big numbers.
Just a ton. He had a 300 game, a couple of real huge 200 games. I know John Gillespie, I sent him down there, and he did a feature on the kid. He came back, and he said, that kid can really bowl. I said, tell me about it.
I had 31 strikes, and I guess the other 5 hits left the 7-pin, so that adds up to 36 balls in the 1-2 pocket. He's a left-hander. Well, there's a right-hander that's throwing a lot of strikes.
Jeff Richgels, 19 strikes through the first 2 games. He's pushed that up to 22 through 3 games, 3 frames of game number 3. He equals my yearly output in a 3-game series.
Lots of strikes.
Well, let's see if we can keep it going. That's 4 in a row from the first frame. We have nothing but strikes from the two bowlers so far here in game number 3.
As we're taping, he mentioned that Mark McDowell's only cashed 1 time so far this year, so he's fallen off a little bit, Hank, on that Pro Tour.
I noticed that. Whenever I see the Pro Tour results or the
Hey!
A little high, but he got it. 4 in a row for Gene Schuette as well, and there comes Genoa City alive. Yeah, maybe in a little bit of a slump. Bowlers are like ball players, aren't they? I mean, they go through slumps.
Absolutely. It's timing. You know, most sports you got to swing that bat just at the right time. Look at that one. Golfers, any sport.
Hey, we're into the 5th frame of the 3rd game. You know what that means? It's Miller time. Bowlers rolling strikes in the 5th frame of the 3rd game. Receive special awards from Miller, and Gene Schuette isn't going to get one. His string of strikes ends in this game at 4. And the party pack is what we're giving away in the 1st round. That umbrella and blanket and thermos and other things from Miller. Jeff Richgels still with a chance to win it. Good spare there, right on it. So 109 through 4 frames, a spare up in the 5th, and he could be trailing. Miller frame. There you saw the logo from Miller. Early reminder to take in the Miller tournament 1st week of March down at Red Carpet Celebrity Lanes. Jeff Richgels looking for 5 in a row. Has it.
He didn't think that was going to make it back. I know it, Hank.
And he wins that party pack you see in your screen, and he has 2 more strikes to win that trip to Puerto Vallarta. I can't believe it in a way, because I said, hey, all you got to do is get the first 7, you can still win it.
That's right. Yeah, if there's any ties on that, it's a roll-off rather than the first one that runs.
That's right. Yeah.
Rolls 11.
Yeah, that's new this year.
Will it make it back? It's there. 1 more to go.
1 more strike, and he could win the trip to Puerto Vallarta or be in the roll-off if somebody else has 11 in a row. We felt that the luck of the draw shouldn't determine. If somebody came out the first game of the season and rolled it, nobody else has a chance. So that's why we went to the roll-off. And I think a good rule. I think most people would agree. So
I agree.
All right. Then that makes it doubly just. Oh, a little 4-pin leave there for Gene Schuette.
Well, Gene has been bowling well since the first game. Not a lot to show for it. 196 with, of course, he had a foul in there and a bunch of 10 pins. And now he's at a 10 and a 4 after the first 4. So good game working, but could have been higher.
And Cheryl Evers joins a rather select group.
Right.
Foul line judges who have actually called fouls. Haven't been that many over the years, but there was the day.
Well, Gene will throw 1 more frame, and then we'll look for the big one from Jeff Richgels.
And the most famous foul, our buddy Ron Wheeler down there at Delavan. Every once in a while I mention that because that's the most famous foul in the history of bowling with the champs. He stuck, and he ran halfway down to the pins almost. I mean, of course, he also won a championship on this show, so it wasn't all bad, Ron. Well, no 10-pin again, and he's had trouble with that 10-pin this morning.
Now working on 227 after a 367 for the first 2 games, so he's close to the 600 mark. Jeff, hey, Jeff could go to the high triple also, Hank. We forgot about that.
So he could beat 782.
Sure. 504 going in.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, yeah. And we're also forgetting that he's making another run at the car as well as the trip. Well, here we go. 7th frame. If Jeff Richgels gets a strike here, he could perhaps win the trip to Puerto Vallarta. Certainly be in a roll-off for it.
Well, you want him to keep up his speed right here.
This was the lane that stopped him last time.
He got it. Hey.
There he is. He got 7 in a row from the first, 4 from the last game. That's 11 consecutive strikes for Jeff Richgels. He points at his fiance and a possible trip to Puerto Vallarta.
You don't think he was pointing his mother and dad to take them along, huh?
I don't think so. They don't think so either.
Well, we still got the car from Foster Pontiac. That's good speed. That's light. Hey, that's 8, 9, 8, pardon me.
8 in a row from the first frame for Jeff Richgels. the last game, he rolled 7 in a row. In the first, had 11 strikes overall. He is now, Dennis, go back to the last ball of the first game. He had a strike, right? And then 11 more, that's 12. And now how many here?
He said 20 out of 21.
Make that, well, I looked up and Gene got that one, but 20 out of 21 strikes. His last 21 balls.
And
that's, yeah, here he is. Watch what happens when he knows that. That's for the shot at the trip.
And bear in mind, only 2 700s have been bowled in the first round. One big one, of course, 782, and a 708 by Gary Dereshevsky. So we haven't been murdering this pair. They've been bowling well, but nothing like we're seeing today.
Oops, a 4-7 for Gene.
So what kind of game has Jeff got going? Well, he's got a 300 game going, but right now he's in the 260s. So believe it or not, with all these strikes, he would need 2 more for the high triple.
Well, what really hurt him was that the fact that when the one ball he didn't throw for a strike, he threw for a split. If you'd spared that, it'd been a lot easier. And Gene Schuette makes his spares, bowled decently here today despite a wrist injury. But he's up against a strike machine.
27 strikes so far.
Looking for 9 in a row from the first frame. He's going into the 10th frame with a perfect game.
Well, that light hit is just magic for him, Hank. And as we said earlier, he started out the first frame he missed. But then he had a number of strikes where the 4-pin carried well, so he's had that big pocket, and here we go into the 10th frame.
Could be the second time in 2 years we have a perfect game. He's 2 strikes away.
Use of a car for a year, is that what it is this year?
Yeah, from Foster Pawnee.
And I think we have the high triple.
He's now got the new high triple.
Let's see. No, we need 1 more, I believe.
11 in a row.
It's coming.
No! Ringing 10-pin. A ringing 10-pin. It cost him the high 3.
I got to add these up.
Perfect game. What a run. What a performance here today by Jeff Richgels. And a ringing 10-pin with his 11th ball of game number 3. It's cost him the perfect game.
He got the high 3, though, Hank.
He made the spare.
289 for 793.
790.
793.
793. Cost him extra bonus money. There you see his reaction.
Right.
He's sitting down in the lanes there.
Oh, what a spot.
793. A new high 3 for the year. Shot at the trip to Puerto Vallarta. What a morning. And what a morning for Gene. He's seen that 10-pin enough times. He's going to be seeing it in his sleep.
Yeah,
but
3 times this game.
But Jeff Richgels saw that 10-pin just once when he didn't need to see it. There he is. You're looking at him live here as he's trying to recover from that.
But a trip to Puerto Vallarta, he'll be back. He can do it the next time out, right?
That's true. And the spare.
You get that close, you hate to get wrapped like that with a good ball.
Oh. Well, you know, you get watching a guy like that and you think it's all automatic, and you forget that he's throwing
up.
Yeah, you have to throw the ball almost perfectly to carry every time, and he was doing that. And why he left that ringing 10 out of nowhere, I don't know. Well, there's Gene Schuette getting a big round of applause from the people from Genoa City. He shot a 226 game, totally overshadowed by a big 289 from Jeff Richgels for 793. A new high 3 for the year on Bowling with the Champs. Exciting morning. We'll be back to finish it off, talking with the bowlers and giving them some money after this. As he presents the money from Red Carpet Lanes. Joe?
Gene, here's a consolation prize. We hope to see you next season. And for Jeff, we'll see you in the next round.
Okay, Joe, and for Gene, I have an additional check for $400. And you saw more 10-pins today than you probably wanted to.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had to switch to a harder shell ball. I couldn't throw the ball hard enough with my wrist, and I just didn't carry them like I wanted to.
How much of the factor was the wrist? Obviously, I can see it's swollen. You can see by looking at it that it had to be a factor.
It didn't really hurt too much. I just had to stay slow so I wouldn't. But staying slow, I had to change equipment, and it didn't work out too well.
Of course, you were also up against a guy that was incredible.
Yeah, he would have been hard to beat on a good day.
I'm sure you want to say something to all your supporters that came down to cheer you on today.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody, friends, relatives. It was great. I have to do it again.
All right, well, let's do it again. Well, as Joe says, see you back next year.
Yeah. I like the West, Jeff. Good luck.
Thanks,
Okay. Thank you, Gene. Jeff, we got a couple of things to talk about. First of all, when you were on the roll in the second game, the 7-10 split. Did you feel you'd thrown the ball well enough to do better than that?
Accuracy-wise, it wasn't too bad a shot. It might have been a little wide, but I didn't hit it. I was just squeezing the ball a little, and I didn't really have enough roll on it. That's the old pocket 7-10, though. I'm famous for those here. I didn't deserve a strike there.
But you came back the next frame on the right lane, and Dennis said, well, he looks like he threw with a little more speed that time.
Yeah, it was just a pressure shot, and I squeezed it a little. I was thinking about it, and those things happen. Everyone's human.
Now, in the third game, you went into the 12th frame, or into the 11th frame, rather, knowing you needed a strike for the 300. You left that solid 10-pin. What caused that, do you feel?
Well, I think it was a very good shot. I suppose it finished a little late. I might have hit it a little too hard and had too many revs, so it hooked too late. But, you know, I wasn't feeling any pressure. The key shot I wanted was a 7th frame to win the cruise. I'd like to get that. I mean, I have a car. I've never gone on a cruise. I think that's a neat one to win.
Well, the Port of Vallarta, and I understand that maybe I'm talking out of turn here, but you and the young lady sitting down there have any kinds of plans?
Maybe after the tour. I mean, I think that's the girl I'm going to marry, but right now we got to deal with the tour. I would like to say, if I can, that I want to dedicate today to my grandfather. He died last week. We had the funeral last Saturday. He was a great follower of my bowling, and I really want to dedicate today to him. I was thinking about that when I came down here today.
Well, you certainly did him proud with a 793 series. Are you thinking about the tour for next year?
Very much so. I'm leaving for the second tour stop in January. I can't wait. I mean, I'm bowling good again. I just waiting for it. I want to thank the fans that were here today. This was a great crowd. They were very polite to me, and congratulations to Gene for making the show.
All right, Jeff, we got to get out of here. That's our show for today, Bowling with the Champs. It's been brought to you in part by Foster Pontiac, South 27th and Loomis, per zone record so far this year, Milwaukee's #1 Pontiac dealer, and by Miller Beer. Purity you can see, quality you can taste. Miller made the American way since